Welcome to the Trill and BA Show. I'm your host, Felicia and Rose Anuha, aka the Trillest MBA you will ever know. And I'm here to help you survive and thrive in corporate America by giving you the truth and being as real as only I can be. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Not only is it Sunday, but it is Mother's Day. And I have a very, very special treat for you today in honor of Mother's Day. My team and I, we work to find a corporate warrior who is not any different from any of you corporate warrior moms out there. Listen, not only is she a corporate badass, she is currently the vice president and general manager at her company, but she is also a mother of 3 beautiful babies. Not even babies. These kids are growing because they are 12, 10, and I believe 2.5. I hope I got that right. So you guys, today we are going to forego the corporate warrior spotlight because we have a corporate warrior right here in person. And I am so excited on this Mother's Day to have somebody representing for the corporate warrior moms. I want to introduce you guys to Delilah Clayborne. She is the vice president and general manager at her company, 2U. 2U is an educational tech company, the way that I understand it. But to no further ado, Delilah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I am so excited to have you. When my team told me about you and your story, this is what they told me. They said, let me tell you about Delilah. Like, not only is she a corporate baddie, but she is also a phenomenal mother. And we don't know how she balances all, but we definitely take notes from her. And I said, well, she got to be on the show because she got to give these nuggets to the mom corporate warriors out there. Listen, I get so many emails about I'm going through burnout. These kids driving me crazy. I don't know how to take a break. I feel guilty. Listen, we're going to talk about it all today. And knowing, I don't want to put all this pressure on you. I know you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But you've been there. You're still there. And so a lot of my friends that have like 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds and big high-powered jobs like you do really could just use this time to understand like they're not alone. So I'm excited to have you on the show. So tell us, how did you start your career before the kids came?
Yeah. Well, first I want to thank you and the Trill MBA team. I'll take those flowers. I'll take all the flowers. I always take all my flowers because it's not easy and we aren't alone, but there's a calling to do a specific thing and we're showing up the best that we know how. And so being acknowledged for that, I do not take that lightly, do not take that for granted. So thank you for having me. On my career track and on my career path, I would say that I have always been sort of driven and diligent and definitely the teacher's pet all my life. And so I knew that college was in my future. Like there was just no question about that. And I really had this ultimate goal of putting families together, right? Taking broken families or families that felt that they were missing something like a child and putting that child there. I had these big pipe dreams of being that, I guess, child psychologist or social worker that would fix all the things. And so when I was in undergrad, I decided to major in psychology and Black studies. It was not hard. School, it just did not come hard to me. I attended Pomona College, the Claremont colleges, go Sage, hence very proud of that, which is a super PWI. But I felt like I made my place there and I came and I learned. And one thing that I left there more confident than I came in. And so when it was time to graduate, I was like, well, I know how to do school. I'm going to go straight through. I'm going to go straight to USC School of Social Work. So I did not take not a break in just the summer. And I went straight in full time to get my master's in social work from USC. And it was there that I kind of got broke down, where I was like, okay, the bubble has been busted. And no, there are systems, and you don't just get to move sad children into happy homes and everybody gets a happy ending and you get all the hand claps. And like, I realized pretty quickly that it was a lot of issues in the system that I individually would not be able to fix. And so I had a really good mentor at the time that said, have you ever heard of like macro social work? Take it up a notch, like move away from the micro. I think you probably have some gifts there based on hearing you speak. And so I just took her advice mostly because I was like, well, I can't do what I thought I was going to do. So I might as well try this. And I ended up feeling really comfortable in that space and took on a job at a nonprofit because that's what social workers do. And I was the director of education there. And it was very, very grassroots. But that was my first job, my first real salary-based job, director of education at a nonprofit. And we were building curriculum. We were really tapping into like, how can we make this community better? But nonprofits run out of money. And this is all before children. Now, at this point, my now husband is my boyfriend, then fiance. All of this is happening. And ultimately, we ended up getting married while I was in that job, but that job ran out of money and I took a layoff option there, which, you know, felt like both a setback and a blessing. I learned I was pregnant right as that happened with my first child.
Oh, wow.
And one thing about social work is there's more than enough kids who need help, foster kids specifically. So it was quite easy for me to transition back into micro work because I needed to work to sustain our living. Plus, we had a baby on the way. And so I went into foster care social work and did that, going into people's homes, talking with kids who are in foster care, trying to help them, you know, reach specific goals, whether that had anything to do with their mental health, physical health, their grades, and then also holding those foster parents accountable for what they're supposed to be doing in terms of caring for the kids. So I did that for a while.
So you've always loved kids?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I feel a way about kids. Now that I have my own kids, it's different perspective, right? Like I would never be a teacher. Like, no way. I'm the teacher that's like, y'all not listening and I'm walking out and call your parents and tell them to come get you because I'm done. Like that's the kind of teacher I would be. But in terms of like helping individual children gain skills, I think that's also a reason why I'm a good mom. So being a foster care social worker allowed me the flexibility to stay home with my first child.
Nice.
And I really wanted to do that, but we weren't like living lavishly, right? And so I needed a job that offered me like an incredible amount of flexibility. And I was able to work out my schedule where I was like really seeing all of my clients from sun up to sundown on Thursdays. And that allowed me to be home with my baby the other days. But then in 2011, when my first child was almost 1 year old, she was 10 months, I was on Facebook and a peer of mine from USC School of Social Work said, I just started with this startup company and they're looking for people and we're trying to hire right away. And my husband and I said, well, should I just apply to it? And I did. I applied for that job. And at the time, the company was called Tutor. I applied for that job. I was ready to start working. I was ready to start making more money. And from my application to being hired was 10 days. It was like, wow, okay, you sound like you got the right mindset. Sounds like you're ready to jump in. We need people to jump in. And I started with Tutor, which is now 2U edX, in June of 2011, which means today I'm crossing over into 12 years with the same company through many, many, many transitions and changes. And at the time, I started as a placement specialist, working specifically to place MSW students in their internship sites. Because as a tech company, we're sort of providing the technology to run the master's degrees programs online. And so that meant we had enrolled students all over the United States. and they were getting their classroom experience virtually, but they needed to go in person to have their actual internship. So I was responsible for that and loved it, and really moved up and through the ranks of that department relatively quickly. But I stayed there in that department for 6 years before I made a big leap within the company over to program management. And so in 2017, I went from senior manager in placement to program director over entire programs. And I was responsible for a school and not just a slice of a school. And that rocked me. And we can talk more about that.
Yeah.
And it was very hard.
Because when you were a senior manager, were you managing people?
Yeah. I've managed lots of people as a senior manager. And as a program director, I didn't have direct oversight over anyone, but I had dotted lines. So many people had dotted lines to me across different functions of the company. So it was just transition period. It was going from knowing every single thing to feeling like you knowing nothing and just feeling inadequate at work. It was like not the way that I wanted to feel at work. Right. And it was really hard for me.
You had your second child by this time, right?
Yes, I had another baby. I actually, when I started with Tutor, I would say I got pregnant within the first year again with the second baby. And I was so scared. I was like, they're going to fire me. Like, for sure, they're going to fire me. Like, I haven't been here that long. And a story that I always tell is like, I was like, well, I'm going to tell them before they find out, because if they're going to fire me, I'd rather just get fired now. And when I went to my manager and her boss at that time, they were so encouraging. And I was like, that was part of the reason where I was like, I'm going to like put my foot in the ground here, because like they both said, oh my God, congratulations. And my boss's boss specifically was like, you are going to be a superhero mom to those two babies. You got this, you know? And I was like, do I? Okay, then I do. And it made me feel like I could do my job with a ton of confidence, and I could show up my whole pregnant self, and people would still respect me and see value in what I bring to the table. So that was like one of those moments where I was like, Tutor at the time, To You Now is a good place to be.
This is what I love when I hear these stories, because a lot of times, you know, I tell my clients, leave. I tell them quickly. I'm like, how long you been there? And they're like, 3 years, 5 years. I'm like, leave. But the reason why I'm saying leave is because it's not fertile ground. By the time they're coming to me, it's like, I'm struggling. I can't get the visibility. I don't have the support. I don't trust my manager. Like, none of those things are fertile ground. And what you just said was so key, and I want people not to miss it. Your managers were supportive at a time when you were scared, at a time where you thought, I'm going to get fired. And they were like, oh no, you're going to be great. And that's always the sign that I'm in fertile ground. When you have that support from your management, your leadership, to live your best life and bring yourself to work and give your everything to all that you want to give and be productive, that's the reason to stay. Right? That's how you grow your career and you learn. But let's talk about, how old were your two kids when you got the director position?
Yeah. So when I got that program director position, it was 2017. So that meant I had a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Okay. So can they make cereal or not?
Oh, it was so hard. You're really actually making me think back to how many hours I put in just trying to understand what all was at stake. Since I made such a big deal about moving from one department to the other, like, I absolutely want to be successful here, as successful as I had been. And I was stressed. And I think that is something that my kids will remember, that I was like this at my computer when they woke up, and probably maybe when they went to bed, more often than I should have. And of course, you know, shout out to my husband, because we are real partners in this life thing. And there's not a thing that he won't do or that I won't do, except like I really actually do not like taking out trash. I'll take out trash if he's like out of town, but like just only because I don't want the house to smell. But like trash is really his thing. Outside of that, like we share, we're equal. And I think that is what preserved us through those times when I was working so much and really looking for that opportunity to like have that click moment of like, I get it. I get my job. I'm good at this. And it took a year.
Right. I'm so glad you say that, because it's going to take at least, I always tell people, give yourself 14 months, because you have to be in that role through a business cycle of your job. You have to go through the corporate planning process, annual planning or whatever. You have to go through that process. You have to go through the execution phase from the planning. Like you have to see it all. And so every day feels like shaky ground because you just haven't seen it from this role vantage point before. Yeah. Did you feel imposter syndrome any?
Oh, yeah. I felt imposter syndrome. I was leaving meetings being like, I don't even know what just happened in that meeting. And I was mostly the only Black woman in the room in those calls. And I just felt the weight of representation on my shoulders. And so much so that I was like, I'm not going to ask any questions and be the Black girl who doesn't know anything. And then I just had to get to a point where it was like, okay, if you don't ask questions, this is never going to get better for you.
Right.
And so I started being like, I know you said this once. Can you say it again? And can you use different words? Because I don't think I understand. And saying it out loud was actually really liberating for me. Yeah. And to this day, I use that same language. It was a skill that I learned in the fire. Today, I'm still like, oh no, I see clarity. Just because I'm asking questions doesn't mean that I don't deserve to be here. I absolutely deserve to be here. I also deserve clarity. So let's run that conversation back one more time, just so that I make sure that I understand. And I still come up against things today where I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not hiding behind that.
What do you think, like if you could go back, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your first day as the director, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, I would tell myself, slow down. Mm-hmm. It's okay. And I think I would tell myself to probably write down my exact questions and advocate for getting the answers that I need. I don't think I was doing that. I think I was so overwhelmed that I was just like, I don't know. And I would tell myself to like, slow it down, ask for what you need, and let people be like, oh, we're not giving that to you. Because most of the time, they won't say that. You think that people are going to be like, no, sorry, you're on your own. But 99% of the time, when I've actually been able to verbalize what's missing for me, I've been met with some sort of resource that will help me, whether that's a person that helps me to process or an actual document to read or something. So I would tell my old self to ask the questions and to slow down, because no one's going to die if you don't understand this today.
Because we're not in the ER. We're not in the ER. Listen, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to pay a bill real quick. And when we come back, I want you to talk about then the transition from director to this next level, getting to general manager and VP, and then the next baby. When we get back from the break. Hey there, travel enthusiasts. Are you tired of struggling to find hair and skincare products that cater to your unique needs while on the go? Look no further than blacktravelbox.com. Black Travel Box is your one-stop shop for travel-sized natural hair and skincare products, specifically curated for Black travelers. No more settling for generic products that don't work for your hair type or skin tone. Whether you're jet setting to a tropical island or embarking on a cross-country road trip, Black Travel Box has you covered with their convenient and TSA-approved travel kits. Plus, by supporting Black Travel Box, you're not just getting high-quality products, but you're also supporting a Black-owned business that is dedicated to promoting inclusivity in the travel industry. So, travel in confidence, style, and grace with Black Travel Box. Visit blacktravelbox.com now and get ready to slay your next trip. Don't let your beauty routine suffer while you explore the world. And hey guys, let me tell you, Black Travel Box products are amazing, especially that body butter. Listen, I got a promo code for you. Use the code JETSET. That's JETSET, all caps, JETSET. And you can get a discount from Black Travel Box because of who? The Trillist MBA. Happy travels, beautiful people. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, guys, we are back. I have a special corporate badass guest, Delilah Clayborne. Listen, she is dropping nuggets specifically for my corporate warrior moms out there. I am so appreciative, Delilah, that you are on the show today. So you've walked us through that first, going from manager to director, because that's like the first stripe, right? Like that's where, it's a lot of pressure because like you're a director. But now you decided to have another baby. And you're still climbing in your career. So you now going from director to general manager?
Yeah, so I went from director into a role called deputy general manager, which was somewhere between general manager and director, right? So I would lighten the load of the general manager by taking on some of the big picture projects, but also still work really closely with a program director to get some of the sort of day-to-day things done. Okay. And I think in that transition, I was feeling very confident because I had, at this time, I had gone through that rough year. I found success in what I was doing, and the deputy general manager role became available. And I had some folks who sort of were discouraging. And then I just made a decision like, I'm going to apply for this role and this is my job and I can do this. And I checked in with some mentors of mine who then encouraged me. They read my cover letter and they were like, oh, you got this job, including my mom. I always send my mom my stuff if I'm doing something. And of course, I got that job. But what was so wild about getting that job is because this was in May of 2020.
Oh, snap.
And so we were pandemic, homebound, everybody's home. I'm pregnant with my third child who came at a time where we sort of thought maybe she just wouldn't happen because we had been trying for a couple years. But then she came and we were like ecstatic and happy, but also I have this opportunity to promote in my job. And so I put my foot on the gas. If I'm honest, I put my foot on the gas and I said, I'm going to drive my career and I'm going to apply for the job that I believe is mine. And so, defying all odds, a pregnant Black woman in corporate got promoted during the pandemic. And I was like, thank you, God, because that wouldn't happen. Like, that's not my mom's story, right?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't show up in braids, let alone be pregnant and be trying to go from one high level position to another. It would be just unacceptable in corporate for that to happen. And so I love to tell that story because I think there's so much power in believing in yourself and advocating for yourself and stepping up and being excellent at what you do to a degree that when you go for something and you actually really want that thing, that people will pick up on that and you will get the job. So that is what happened for me in the deputy general manager role. Now, the deputy general manager role was perfect for me. I feel like that transition from senior manager to program director was hard, but the transition from program director to deputy general manager, it was the opposite. It was like, oh my God, this is so great. I get to use big parts of my mind and I'm not so deep in the weeds. It was wonderful and great. I was like, this is perfect. But then we had some changes at our company and the opportunity was there for me to become a general manager. And they were going to just really let go of the deputy general manager role as a whole. But I could move into a GM role. That was the opportunity that I had and I took it. And that elevated me to where I am today. And it has been pushing me to my limits of what I am capable of, right? And so like, I'm a social worker, right? At heart, I'm a trained social worker.
Right.
So for me to be in corporate America, where on any given day, at any given moment, I'm talking legal language, I'm talking finance, I'm talking legal, regulatory, I'm talking partner relationship and management of people and how they feel, escalations, like all of the things that you maybe would have never guessed a social worker would be sort of involved in like very corporate structure. And so my level today is one where I'm exercising every part of myself. And I do have faith and believe that this is one of those moments where I'm going to look back and be like, you did that, girl. You did that. You stayed the course and you're so much smarter for it. And so that's bringing me to current. But like, I can't tell those stories without saying that like, I've learned so much about what kind of mom I need to be. Right. And so those long days, program director, 12 hours, easily to work in 12 hours, that is not a part of today's reality for me. I'm not going to do that. And everybody knows that. I'm not going to do that because my children, all three of them at 3 different stages of their life, they need me in a way that can't be replicated or replaced. They need their dad for very certain specific things, and they need me for certain specific things. And I only have them for however much time I have them. And I just know that I can give what I can give and be excellent at work. And there's a cutoff. And I really have to turn over to my children and put effort, energy, time, love into raising them and giving them a soft life and giving them opportunities to understand what it means to have parents who are willing to go out on a limb and make sure they can publish a book. My oldest daughter, she published her own book.
Oh, wow.
For me, that's important, right? My middle daughter, she's an actress. She's in singing lessons now. I'm just like, I'm going to sit at singing lessons. I am. I'm there. I don't want somebody else to drop her off to do that. I want to be there. And, and then that toddler is everywhere and all over the place.
Toddling.
Challenging us, but she also makes us laugh every day, right? And so like what's happening here in my home is so important to me. And instead of, I think in the days when I was in the director role, it was like my identity really was wrapped up in whether or not I could be successful as a director. And today, my identity is really wrapped up in prioritizing myself so that I can be good at the things that matter. My job matters, but also so do my children and my family.
Right. So what are some practical steps that you've taken, the shifts that you've taken to prioritize? Is it how you manage your calendar? Is it your village? Like just the way you think through how you manage your time in order to make sure that you take care of yourself.
Yeah. Like I said, it's been a journey to get there. I've definitely had moments in time in the past where I wasn't really taking care of myself. I was doing things, but I wasn't really taking care of myself. I would argue that today I'm Delilah's champion for Delilah taking care of Delilah. And so for me, what that looks like is yes, I do. I keep a very tight calendar. Mm-hmm. Everything goes in the calendar. Family stuff, work stuff, everything is in the calendar so that I can plan ahead. That really is so that I can build in time for myself. So I go to the gym. The hashtag I always use is fight for it because it feels like a fight, but I never regret it. I always feel good after I, get in there and get my sweat equity in and move my body and breathe air into my lungs. That's a critical piece of like practical skills of how you make it work. You have to take care of yourself. And that can look different for different people. I'm Delilah's champion for Delilah taking care of Delilah. And so for me, what that looks like is yes, I do. I keep a very tight for calendar. You might need everything goes in the calendar. Family stuff, work stuff, everything or is in the calendar so that I can plan so ahead. That really is so that I can build in time for myself. So I go to the gym. The hashtag I always use is fight for it because it feels like a fight, but I never regret it. I always feel good after I get in there and get my sweat equity in and to move my body and breathe air into my lungs. That's a critical piece of like practical skills of how you make it work. You have to take care of yourself. And that can look different for different people and to actually figure out what matters to you. That's the biggest and most important step because maybe 10 years ago, if I could like go get a manicure and a pedicure, like I felt a little boost. And today it's a boost, but it's a baby boost. Right. Like I want to do that, but that's not all I want to do. Like things have changed. I need a bit more than that, to take care of myself. Water intake is really important for taking care of yourself. Yeah. Because sometimes we don't feel good and we can't show up our best because we're like dehydrated or like imbalanced in that way. And I think with the weight of everything else like that Black women are up against, like drink your water.
Please drink your water.
Drink your water.
Baby.
Drink your water. Yeah. And then I also think that like creating healthy boundaries with the people that you love and care about, right? So with my children, they know 9:00 comes, like, I really don't want to talk anymore. Like, I'm here for you if you need me. But like, there's a moment that I need to have with myself before I go to sleep that consists of like silence. And that's just my boundary. But that's me taking care of me.
Right.
But I had to figure that out. It took time. Yeah.
So how does a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old take that though? Like, do they challenge it?
Yeah. I would say my middle daughter definitely challenges it, but my lesson to her is like, you don't always have to be talking to communicate. And if you respect me, then you heard me when I said that I'm done for the day. And I think with enough of that, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be getting in my bed now. And they're just sort of like, okay, good night, Mom. But also they know that if they needed me, if it was like, oh, I forgot to tell you something that happened at school, I would absolutely open my eyes and listen. I will. But I would say they see what I'm doing. They see how I spend my days, right? They're aware. And I think they appreciate me. And I think they know that sometimes I need a break and I deserve it.
Absolutely. And so what about at work, those boundaries at work? Because you are in such a supportive and you're in good soil. Yeah. Have you ever had anybody challenge a boundary or, because even though it's good soil, there might be one or two bad actors and they usually don't make it. But have you experienced that?
Yeah. I would say I wouldn't put it on anybody else. What I would say is that I didn't set the boundary, communicate the boundary, and manage up. I did not do those things. And so, yes, when I was being emailed at 7 p.m. and responding at 7:01, well, why wouldn't someone keep doing that?
Yeah.
You're available, obviously.
Right.
And so once I set the boundary, there's an art to managing up so that folks not only trust you, but they respect what you are saying. And so for me, like all of my managers except for one have been women. And so there's like some level of understanding there, but also I've never caused question for the quality of the work that I do. So it's like, if you don't want to respect my boundary, can you tell me why? Is it because the quality of my work looks like it's suffering?
Right.
If not, then we should really talk about what the problem is.
Yeah.
Right. But that also comes back to very clear conversations.
Yes.
I want to let you know right now, real life example. I take crochet class with my daughter, my middle daughter, at her school. It's every Friday from 2:15 to 3:15. And when I told my manager, like, this is, I put on my work calendar, everybody knows it's not a secret. I have to take a break for an hour to do that. And depending on my day, if my day is really packed, I might start early, or maybe I'll stay late if I need to. But like, my daughter is going to get that time, and she is going to get that memory that her mom took a moment to come take a crochet class with her. And that's my boundary, is that like, I have to show up for my kids, and you should show up for your kids too.
Right. Or whoever's in your life for those.
Whatever
it's
is
the
in your
Mother's
life.
Day episode, but I'm single and I have my boundaries. Like, because just because I don't have a pet or a child doesn't mean that there aren't things that aren't important to me, and I've had.
Well, you got to show up for yourself too.
Yeah. And I've had people say like, oh, well, you don't have any kids, so Felicia can stay late. Excuse me? No, the fuck I can't.
Yeah, no, that's definitely very 1986 to assume that because people don't have children that they can take on extra loads. And some of my best friends don't have children, and I will tell you their lives are very busy.
Yeah.
Very busy. And they're balancing and juggling in some of the same and similar ways that I am. And nobody should have to explain that either.
No, but people are crazy. But one thing I want to give the listeners, something that I started doing, because when it comes to those late night emails and what have you, is I put this truly human notice. I stole this from somebody on LinkedIn. I put it in my signature. And it says, truly human notice, getting this email out of normal working hours. We work at a digitally enabled, relentless pace, which can disrupt our ability to sleep enough, eat right, exercise, and spend time with the people that matter most. I am sending you this email at a time that works for me. I only expect you to respond when it's convenient for you.
I love that.
Yeah. And also, I send that because also what that means is you can send me an email whenever you like. That don't mean I'm going to stop everything and answer it right then and there either.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely an important, that right there is like, first of all, that's everything I was talking about. It's managing up and out, letting everybody know this is what I'm respecting. And then I would expect you to respect that same thing about me, right? It's leading by example. Yeah. And I think that's great. And I think the world moves at the right pace when we are thinking that way. And when people feel like they don't have to be under so much pressure and stress to respond to an email when nobody's life is on the line.
No, not a one. Please, you do not work in the ER. I tell people that all the time. You're not saving babies. You're not saving lives. You are pushing around papers and you're working in Excel, PowerPoint, and Office Outlook. Come on now. Come on. It's Teams meeting. It is not that big of a deal. And you mentioned this earlier about feeling the pressure of being the only one. How have you moved away from that now?
Well, I do acknowledge it, like in the public spaces. And I think another sort of wonderful thing about 2U edX is that like I've established some really solid relationships. So I really don't have issue with being in a room and saying like, well, we all know like I'm the only Black person here today. And that's a problem, and that hasn't always been like easy because I've had those, how you just feel the feeling in your body, that burn of like, this is not right? Why is it like this? But I've really have grown comfortable with like highlighting the facts of, where we are and where changes need to be had. That said, I also have a ton of mentees who are young Black people. And where I can amplify their existence, where I can amplify the work that they do, I'm doing that because I think there is a path behind me. I hope I blaze some sort of trail that allows the next 5 Black people to enter into this level of their career at this corporate company or any corporate company.
Exactly.
So I definitely believe in raising up the next generation of people, Black people, to expand where I'm at.
We have to lift as we climb. We have to. And we have to get comfortable with doing that. You mentioned you had mentors. Are your mentors Black or are they a mix?
Yeah, I have a mix. One of my biggest, she's not my mentor today, one of my biggest mentors in my career was a white single woman with no children.
Oh, wow.
But today I have a mix of mentors, men and women,
Good.
Black and otherwise. And then in my mentees, they are all women and they are majority Black, but they're not all Black. And so I think we lean into where we're comfortable, and that's a good place to start. It is a really good place to start because you do need to be able to process some of your raw feelings, and that might not happen if you can identify with the person. But I would challenge Black folks Black women especially, to not pigeonhole themselves in terms of what their mentors can look like, because not enough of us are in the rooms where our names need to be called for us to do that. Not yet. Maybe in 30 years. Maybe hopefully sooner for my daughters, right? But because of that, you really do need to branch out and have mentors and solid relationships with white men, with whomever, because that's who's in those rooms at the levels that you want to go into, and you need them to be able to speak your value. You even, need them to change their own perspectives. And the relationship, it goes both ways, right? Mentees teach me things all the time, right? And so I just think it's important to branch out on that a little bit when you're ready. It doesn't have to be like the first thing that you do.
Do you remember the first time you were engaging with a white mentor? Was that uncomfortable, or had you just made up in your mind, like, I need to connect with this person?
It was uncomfortable, but my manager at the time was an Asian woman. She encouraged me, and I felt like, all right, I'm not going to lose my job if I say something crazy.
Right. Because that's always the fear, right? Like, am I going to say something career limiting or career eliminating?
Yes. And so it was like, okay. But, I also I went to Pomona College. So I've been surrounded by non-Black people before, and had to step out and be me and, ask questions. It was just that corporate layer.
Yeah, that it's intimidating.
It had me feeling like, ooh, okay, but it went over well. And that first mentor who's a white man, even to this day, is like somebody that I believe I can call on and have organic, real, true conversations with. And he would say the same thing about me.
That's awesome. So do you know your sponsors? Because clearly you got people at the top that's like that one. Do you know who they are? Because sometimes people don't know who they are.
Yeah. I think I know who some of them are. I would hope I don't know who all of them are. But I think I know who some of them are. No one has ever said to me, Delilah, I'm your sponsor.
Yeah, no. That's not how it works.
That's how it works.
It's
definitely not how it works. But I do think, I think of examples and times where, I know someone was in a room and spoke my name and I know who was in that room. Grateful for it. Definitely grateful for it. But I think the goal is that you don't know all of your sponsors.
You're not going to really. Like, you can work to cultivate your social capital so that people want to spend their social capital on you. You're working to build your image and you're working for the exposure that's in the pie model through your performance, right? Your performance is the foundation, but it's only 10%. And that's why I really try, especially with moms, I want them to think through focusing on the most important things so that they get those things done to build their image, their exposure, and their narrative, because that's how you attract sponsorship to you, where people are talking about you in rooms that you're not in. And we get lost. And I love how you're talking about, I have boundaries. And so I want people to see, like, look how successful this woman is with, I'm going to let you know, from 2:15 to 3:15, you're not going to be able to get a hold of me because I'm going to be knitting with my child. And tough titty, how you feel about it. This is what it is. But because, right? Because you do that. And I think people have it backwards. They feel like, oh, I'm going to be penalized. I'm going to be penalized. No, because if you show up in the right way, you set the right expectations, you've created the right narrative. Like, I bet you if I go to your company and talk to 10 people and say, tell me about Delilah. First of all, your likability is going to be through the roof. Oh, we love her. That I already know. That's the first thing they're going to say. And then they're going to talk about how dope your work is secondarily. And like all the great things you've done. But the first thing they're going to say is that we like you. We like working with you. And you've done so many good things for people. They'll talk about your social capital first. So I want people to realize, like, if you want to be a corporate badass, you have to focus on those soft things, not so much like putting your head down and just working. Because that's what we were taught, right? Like, just you got to outwork them. I'm telling you, today's climate, it's not even about outworking anybody. A lot of times the person that's doing all the work, so you got your head down working, somebody taking the credit because you ain't telling people what you're doing. You're just getting stuff done. And if you don't have the right manager, you're not in the right soil. You're not managing, you're advocating for yourself, like you mentioned before. Somebody done took the credit for all the work you did and just said, well, Felicia's a good worker, B. Don't nobody know who you are. And so we got to get out of that mode.
I think that manager thing is key. But also, like, we all know what it's like to have a bad manager. And like, I am extremely committed to not being a bad manager because the cycle has to stop, right? And so, like, any chance I get to manage someone, like, I take that very seriously, because a manager can ruin how people feel about themselves, how they feel about work, how they show up at work. And we see it all the time, where it's just like, oh, my manager. And it's just like, why become a manager if you don't plan on being good at it? Let it go. Go do something where you don't have to manage people, because there are certainly good managers out here who are trying to elevate folks and help people hone in on their skills. And they're good at it. And you're not good at it, you should walk away from that. So even to people listening to this podcast who are managers of people, but you know you're not a good manager, don't manage people. You should find something where you're not managing people. Because it's an important job.
Very much so. I do want to encourage the people who, there are a lot of people I know that would be amazing people managers, but they don't want to. And I'm like, but we need you. It's like the people who are horrible at being people managers want to run big teams. It's like, oh, Lord. But the people who would be really good at it, because they take it to heart, they take it seriously, they focus on being a better manager, bettering their communication, right? Like, nobody's perfect and there's always an opportunity to grow. But those people tend to not want to even deal with it. And I just be like, but I need you. To be a people manager, because it's a lot of y'all managing people and y'all are trash. You just have lost your humanity.
Yeah.
Like, I have had managers tell me stuff like, this isn't personal. This is about the business. I'll never forget this. I tried to set a boundary around driving in the snow early in the morning because I'm from Texas and I have never been taught how to drive in snow. So one day I spun my car out. So I thought that I'm going to call this meeting with my boss, my boss's boss, and HR to level set on some days I am going to be late into the office. Now, mind you, this director wanted his team to come in by 8 a.m. When the rest of the teams came in between 8:30 and 9, he was like, we have to be the example and blah, 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 bullshit. And so I was just like, I'm going to come when I feel comfortable getting on the road. He said, have you had your car weatherized? Maybe you should move an apartment that's closer to the company. You know, maybe you should do all these things that put this burden on me. And
everything, but let's make an accommodation.
Let's make sure you feel safe and that you stay safe. And that's when I realized, like, I have to leave because you people don't care if I live or die. Like, I explained to him, I took a picture. I took a picture of the 18-wheeler. So I spun out and was like half in a ditch, half not. And the 18-wheeler slid and stopped like literally maybe a yard from me before smacking me. And I was just like, and me and the 18-wheeler looking at each other because my car done spun all the way around. So now I'm going the wrong way. We looking at each other and I'm like, we alive?
Yeah. Yes.
And then people got out their car and pushed my car back and turned it around so I could inch to work. And I told them the story. Girl, they did not care. And the HR woman, I'll never forget her. She was Afro-Latina. She said, you know, that's your problem. You want to make this about your feelings. This isn't about your feelings. This is a business. And I was like, you mean the feeling of being alive? Like, I'd like to live.
Yeah. It's not too much to ask. And I mean, it's just like gain perspective.
Yeah.
You know, like you listen to the clues. Like if people don't care, then it is probably a good time to move on, right?
Absolutely.
You don't ever want to be anywhere that you're not respected or valued.
At all. Like, forget the work. It's like, you don't care if I live.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break, pay one more bill, and then we're going to come back with the most important thing. And hint, we're going to talk about being overwhelmed and mommy guilt and how you balance ambition. That's what we're going to talk about when we get back from the break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, listen. You know, you can just mosey on over to trillandba.com/coaching. I have opened up individual coaching sessions. I've also created 2 packages with coaching sessions. If you need some help and you're trying to get promoted, you're trying to have a better relationship with your manager, you're trying to find the right words, I got the secret sauce for you, because a lot of times we just get stuck in our heads on how to communicate in the workplace. Communicate for impact. That's my jam. So if you are listening to this and you're trying to figure out how to ask for a promotion, hint, don't ask, I want a promotion. Like, don't even say the words promotion. That is not really going to get you a promotion. Trust me, I have some better language for you. Or let's say you want to change departments, or you're looking for, a new opportunity, or you want to get on that high visibility project. I'm your girl to help you do all those things. So hit us up at ask@trillandba.com if you have questions, or you can schedule a consult with me to talk through what your coaching needs are at trillandba.com/coaching. Now let's wrap up the show. All right, guys, we've got Delilah Clayborne in the house. And it is Mother's Day. And so I wanted to do this episode. And when my team told me about Delilah, I was like, yes, yes, and yes. Because not only do you have a preteen, but you also have a toddler. All at the same time, Delilah. Do you, especially that time when you were like transitioning from senior manager to director, did you have mom guilt?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, mom guilt is real. And it really does rob you of reality. You know, I think that there's this feeling when you've really given all of yourself, right? So you carry the baby, you birth the baby, you nurse the baby, and it's not crazy that you might want a little bit of a break, or you might want to take a weekend away, or you might want to spend the day. It's not crazy, but it feels crazy. Those feelings are very real. But again, like, it's robbing you of reality. So yes, I dealt with mom guilt. And I think that my husband's saying is, it was us before them. And it's going to be us when they decide to move on with their lives and do their own thing and get married and have kids and whatever they choose to do with their lives, their careers, all of that. And so, like, you have to remember that, like, we got to live, you know, and build a life outside of these kids. And so, you know, I would say I even probably today still have some mom guilt, but I've gotten really comfortable with, like, again, prioritizing myself and doing things that make me feel good. You know, like, one commitment I have, I love wine tasting. I love wine tasting.
Yes.
Me and my husband always go to Temecula, and my kids have never been to Temecula, and I'm not going to take them until they can have wine, because that's like my thing. You know, that's like my time away. And I think it gives me perspective too, of like, hey girl, it's okay. You don't have to feel bad that your kids aren't here. And the other thing is, like, I have to remind myself of all that I do for them as well. You know, everything, every opportunity that me and my husband make available to them, all the effort that we put in, you know, that's worth something. And so when you decide to take that vacation and you're going to take it kid free, like, you have to remember the deposits you put into other people that you love and care about your kids. And so there's a way to overcome it. I think there's a way to overcome mom guilt, but I would be lying if I said I didn't feel it, or more back in the day and still today.
Yeah. But then also, do you ever think I have to be the example for them?
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're always in mommy mode, then what does that teach them? If you never take time for yourself, what does that show them?
No, I definitely think about that. And that, you know, I have 3 girls. And so I do. And I see myself in them. And especially, like, the preteen, as she's getting older, it's like certain things she says and certain things she does. That's learned behavior, 100%. And whether I'm proud of it or not, like, it is learned behavior. She's watching me. And so I definitely feel like it's important for me to teach them how to take care of themselves. Take care of yourself. That's the inner body and the outer body. And I'm their first example. And I would argue that I'm their biggest example of how to do that. And so not only do I owe it to myself, but they reap the benefits of me taking a break, of me not listening to mom guilt to tell me that I shouldn't be doing this or that, because it's not true.
Right.
That's not true that I shouldn't be.
And it's not neglecting them if they don't get every single hour, minute of every day of your life until they're 18. Like, that would be a disservice.
That would be a disservice. That's like not living. So, you know, I do have a village that allows me to do things like take a weekend away, and they pour into my children too. And those people are examples for my girls of, you know, other phenomenal women as well. So that I'm lucky in that way, that they're, you know, even if when the mom guilt sets in, I'm also like leaving them with amazing women who they need to emulate and learn from anyway. So I'm even in my getting away, I'm serving them. I'm always serving them.
Yeah.
Mom, your job never stops.
Right. And so you've mentioned that in part of your village, you told me in our pre-production that part of your village was your mom and your mother-in-law, your husband's mom. So what has been the most important thing that they've taught you as being a part of your village? Because they've raised wonderful kids.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the most important thing you feel like you've learned from them? The most important thing.
My mother-in-law she's a faith-filled woman. And I think what she taught me without having to tell me is that God's favor will always be. And so I think even in tricky situations that I've been in or hard situations, like I'm not so surprised when it works out in my favor, just on the basis of how she lives her life, things she's come up against and overcome, and in that faith. So I think my mother-in-law has taught me that like God favors you, Delilah, and everything that's for you will be yours because God favors you. So that's a big lesson. And I pray to God that I'm passing that down to my girls now. My mom, on some like things that she actually told me. I remember, speaking of mom guilt, I had just come home from the hospital with baby number 1, my oldest daughter, and I had had a C-section. So I was taking a lot of medication, pain medication, and I'm nursing the baby. And I never done this before. I don't know. To me, the baby looks sleepy. So I'm like, I start crying. I'm like, she's getting all of these drugs that I'm taking, and like, she's getting it through the milk, and look at her. She's so sleepy. Now I'm like, okay, that's what newborns do. They sleep. But at that time, I didn't know.
Right.
And my mom, she was watching me sit on the couch crying. And she said, girl, you better wipe those tears and save those tears. That baby is fine. And you have a long journey of motherhood ahead of you. Don't cry now. And it was one of those moments, and there's been a couple of these moments between me and my mom, where what I thought I needed was somebody to cuddle me. But my mom just kept it real with me. She just kept it straight up and down 100. I was like, oh, it like woke me up. It was like, oh, that's right. Let me wipe my tears because she's mine forever. This is going to be my daughter forever. And if I think I'm going to cry over the fact that she looks sleepy, well, goodness, I'm going to have a hard life. It's going to be a hard day ahead of me, And so it was like, it's simple, but I'm always thinking about how my mom is like, perspective. Think about the whole situation. And that's something that today, like more than anything, I absolutely want my children to look back and say, my mom offered me perspective and helped me navigate the situations that I was in and up against because she offered perspective in a loving way, but she offered perspective. I think that it's just a huge gift that my mom gave me. And I think she had been giving me that all along. It's just in that moment that like I can pinpoint where it was an aha moment for me, where I realized it's so much bigger than your baby looking sleepy right now. Yeah. And like, how are you going to do this motherhood thing, Delilah? Please wake up. How are you going to do it? Yeah. So yeah, those are two things that keep sustain me, as a mother. And I would say are transferable skills into how, who I am at work and how I became, VP and general manager at a very public company today.
Well, Delilah, I appreciate all these nuggets you have dropped. And I feel so inspired by you. Thank you for sharing your career journey, your mom journey, your tips and tricks on how you balance. I think for me, I just know because I'm inspired. I know a lot of moms out there are going to listen to this and going to know they can have their corporate warrior badass job. They can kill it at work. They can kill it at home, and have that perspective that it's not about perfection. It's just about getting things done and making sure you're prioritizing. Those were the key things that I took away from our conversation. And so many people just forget this. It's simple, but we forget because we're overwhelmed, and there's, the world sometimes feels like it's on fire. And then we've got these kids we got to take care of. And although I don't have any, I am going to be the rich auntie. So I still love on all the babies. And, you know, I care. Like, I even am like, I got to start recycling because the babies, like, we all have to become each other's village, and we all have to, really work to support our mom colleagues, support our dad colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Support the parents, the teachers, everybody who is helping to bring forth the next generation. We've really got to all come together. And so I hope moms out there, I hope you're inspired by this conversation today. Delilah, you are a blessing. Keep going.
Oh, thank you.
I'm excited to see your client. I'm excited to see CEO next to your name. I'm going to speak that. I don't know if you even want that, but I'm just going to I'm going to speak it because, like, I see, like, I'm getting Ursula Burns vibes over here. So I think you just got to claim it. You just got to claim it.
We'll see what the future holds, We'll see. I am definitely blessed. And thank you for having me, and happy Mother's Day. Yeah. I love holidays. Like, I really love holidays, like, a lot. And Mother's Day is no different.
What are you going to do for Mother's Day? Do you know?
Well, we're going to have a little brunch at the house. My mom will be here making salmon croquettes, which is my favorite food.
I love salmon croquettes. Oh my God.
Favorite. So, yeah, and we got fancy champagne, and we're going to be sipping champagne and eating salmon croquettes and enjoying family. That is the plan for Mother's Day.
Well, happy Mother's Day, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms in your family, your mother-in-law, your mom, aunties, everybody. Have a wonderful Mother's Day. Please take the day off. Please take a break. Do not check email on Mother's Day. Do not check email today. It can wait. You are worth it. And until next week, guys, listen, let me tell you, if you have a problem or a work situation, you can always hit me up. Go to trillandba.com/coaching to schedule a 45-minute consultation with me to strategize and walk through your specific work situation. In addition, you can always email us at ask@trillandba.com. I'm either happy to answer your question, or I can connect you to the right person like Delilah if I don't have the answer. Again, that's trillandba.com/coaching to schedule a 45-minute consultation with me, or ask@trillandba.com to submit your question, concern, or your listener letters. Guys, don't forget to send me listener letters. If I read your listener letter on the show, you will get a free consultation session. So until next time, guys, have a happy Mother's Day and keep it trill. The Trill MBA Show is a Fair World Corp LLC production. Executive produced by Felicia and Rose Inuha. Sound design and editing by Chris Mann with Podshaper. Theme music is Kick Push by Ryan Little. Keep it trill every day, y'all.